What's going on, guys? Cody Marchand from HydeAndZeke.com. Let's dive right into the Week 3 version of First Look here on Draftkings for the NFL. It was a crazy week 2. There were some wins, there were some losses, some chalk hit, some chalk missed. Depending on how you played week 2, you either crushed it or you got killed. So there was no real in between. Basically, let's just come here, let's get better. We want to, shake off whatever happened in week 2, win or loss. We want to dive right into the next week with a clean slate and get ready to crush it. So that's what we're going to do. There's some great games in this week 3 specifically. There's some games that, are kind of going to be ugly, but that's what we want for fantasy football. We have Cincy Buffalo, Miami Dallas, Denver Green Bay, Atlanta Indianapolis, Baltimore Kansas City, which is the game of the week, probably the game of the season as of right now. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes look like the two best young quarterbacks in the league by a long ways. Patrick Mahomes just looks ridiculous. Lamar Jackson might have more fantasy points than him, though, through 2 games. Oakland, Minnesota. We have the Jets and the Patriots. We have the Lions, the Eagles, Panthers, Cardinals, Giants, Buccaneers, the Texans, the Chargers, the Saints, the Seahawks, the Steelers, the 49ers. We could be without, we don't know for a fact, we could be without Ben Roethlisberger this week. We could be without Drew Brees this week. So that's something to pay attention to. That actually is probably where I want to start. Wow, it says out. I don't know if that means for last game or... Brees' thumb surgery is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks and be placed on injured reserve. Oh, being put on IR remains a possibility. Wow, that's crazy, guys. That's such a big deal. Not only for Drew Brees, clearly for Drew Brees, but that Saints team overall takes a huge hit. Alvin Kamara loses a lot of value. Michael Thomas loses a lot of value. We kind of had a pretty good inkling that this could happen after watching that game. I actually tweeted out a video where he couldn't even, grip a football. So we kind of knew this was coming, but that just kind of sucks for everyone involved. Now that we got the Drew Brees housekeeping all set, let's see what they said about Ben Roethlisberger's elbow, if anything. Wow, that must be, 11:52 a.m. I've been working all morning. I did not see that. Coach Mike Tomlin relayed Monday that Roethlisberger will require season-ending elbow surgery. Holy crap. Okay, that is that's some news right there. What happened? It will need surgery. It didn't say why, what's wrong with the elbow. It's unclear who will back up Rudolph with Josh Dobbs being traded to Jags last week. Wow, that is ridiculous. He wants to avoid surgery, but it looks like he didn't avoid surgery. That sucks for Juju. That sucks for James Conner. That is such a big deal. Wow, what a week 2, guys. That's brutal for both of them. Obviously, Mason Rudolph has some value now at $4,800. It's still not even that great of a price. I'm probably not going to get there. He will take over as the Steelers starting quarterback with Big Ben out. Looked all right in the opening day. It does hurt Juju a lot, but I was wondering why Juju was priced down so much, and now I guess Draftkings knew before we did at $6,900 because pricings came out last night before we even knew the news about Ben being completely out. But let's just dive right into the Week 3 first look now that we have those. So that's the first thing to look at. Number 2 thing to look at is probably the most important decision you'll have all week is Patrick Mahomes' Lamar Jackson matchup. Averaging 35 and 33 fantasy points a game. Wow, okay, I see you, Dak, right behind them with 32.5, and probably the juiciest matchup out of the 3. I understand that he's getting a lot of his fantasy points through touchdowns, but they're playing Miami, and there's going to be a lot of those this week. It's going to be a week where you really have to decide where your money is going to be spent at, because he's going to be super chalky, but please try to convince me somehow why I should not be going Zeke Elliott at $8,900 against this Miami team at home. He had 23 carries last week for 111 yards, 2 more catches, had a touchdown, and he's just getting back into the groove of things. And they're playing this Miami defense that has nothing to offer Zeke. It's going to be tough not to pay up at Zeke. I like CMC, Alvin Kamara. I'm going to have to stay away from at 8K. I've been loving Dalvin Cook. Him and Evan Ingram, I think, are the only 2 players that have been in my cash lineups both weeks so far. Dalvin Cook might make his way into a 3rd cash lineup as long as he's under 8K. Oakland, they're all right against stopping the run so far through 2 games, but Dalvin Cook is just in a great situation. He's a great talent, so I'm not too worried about the Oakland Raiders, to be honest, at all. If you look at the first 2 games, 21 and 20 carries for 111 and 154 yards, 3 total touchdowns, 5 targets through 2 games, averaging right around 30 points per game. It's kind of a no-brainer at 78. Austin Eckler's been a stud at 7,200. I apologize for bouncing around a little bit because, you know, I could be just going all through the quarterbacks, but now I'm in the running backs. That's how this video is going to flow with it, and we'll get to where we want to be. Austin Eckler through 2 games. I like how his rushing attempts increased and his targets stayed pretty steady. Yes, his efficiency went a little bit down, a little bit lower yards per carry, a little bit lower yards per reception, but the volume is great. Fantasy points are great. Without, you know, Hunter Henry and Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers is going to have 2 locked-in targets in Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, in my opinion. I think that, you know, the 6 or 7 targets is going to be pretty much what Eckler will average. And, you know, that 12 to 15 carries. Yeah, he got up to 17, but I don't think that's going to be closer to the norm. I think that's going to be, you know, 12, yeah, maybe 17. 12 to 17 carries is going to be where he's going to be at. So it looks like, you know, 15 to 20 touches per game is definitely where I think Austin Eckler ends up. He's going to be efficient in this offense. He's going to score touchdowns, and he's going to catch the ball at 7,200. I still don't think the pricing has caught up to where it needs to be for Austin Eckler. And it's not a bad matchup against Houston. It's, you know, it's a pretty neutral matchup. We got Lev Bell, who obviously New England defense, I'm not going to lie, New England might be the best team in the league, but I think their defense might be better than their offense this year. And that's right now before Antonio Brown gets up to speed, so I don't want to be a little bit too premature. But if you ask me one unit in the entire league, I think that the Patriots defense is the best defense through 2 weeks. Haven't given up a touchdown yet. Yes, they played Miami, but they also played Steelers in week 1. Their secondary looks ridiculous. Stephon Gilmore looks like a stud again, probably the best corner in the league right now. At 7,000, Le'Veon Bell just probably is not in play for me against New England, even though I love his usage, I love his talent. Just a tough matchup, and the Patriots like to shut down their best player. If they don't have Sam Darnold, the Patriots are going to put 8 or 9 people in the box and just completely shut down whatever Le'Veon Bell wants to do. David Johnson, I know that he limped off that field with a wrist injury, but I'm pretty sure he finished the game. A touchdown on 7 carries and a catch for no yardage. Did he come back in? Johnson so he came back in the 4th quarter. He got his touchdown there. He has been hyper efficient with the ball, even though week 1 looked a lot better than week 2. It's kind of game flow dependent, and Baltimore isn't a good matchup, but I think that he'll be a little bit closer to this week 1 stat line than he was to the week 2 stat line. So, you know, David Johnson's definitely here in play at the 6,800 mark. James Conner at 6,400. I like the price, but I can't be there until I see what the offense looks like with Mason Rudolph. Even though he might get leaned on a little bit heavier, I just don't want to be there. It's a little bit too risky for me. Aaron Jones, how beautiful was it to see his freaking workload usage? Real quick, this is a perfect segue point. I have my DFS value picks for week 3 up on HydeAndZeke.com. It's going to be down in the description below, where I go through my favorite values at the quarterback position, running back position. I give you a little bit of, you know, a little sentence or 2 about either the game, the upcoming matchup, his usage, and then I have a projection. So, and I even have an example lineup of what a team could look like at the bottom. So please do me a favor, click that link below as well. It's going to give you a little bit more detail if I, you know, skim on a player or 2 here. They're probably going to be in the article if it's a value play. Aaron Jones is one of those guys in that article. At 6,100, it's kind of a no-brainer. He has a little bit easier of a matchup than he had against Minnesota. The Packers finally featured him the way that he needs to be featured, with 27 total touches, 23 rushing attempts, and 4 catches. He had 116 yards on the ground, averaging 5 yards per touch, 1 touchdown, 4 catches for another 34 yards. I think that Aaron Jones can lead this team. He can be a great running back for the whole entire season. As long as he's healthy, as long as they don't get into negative game scripts, he should really be in that 15 to 20 touch mark per game. Carry per game. It could be closer to 20, 25 touches on a good game. And this week 3 matchup against Denver just does not scare me. He's playing at home at 6,100. It's going to be tough not to get there. Sony played well in week 2, but, you know, especially against this New York Jet front that could be getting Quentin Williams back in week 3. Probably not going to be looking at Sony. Carson fumbled again twice, lost 2 of them, which is unfortunate. He was still involved in that 4th quarter last drive, so he's not completely in the doghouse, but it is something to watch. One name that I really want to talk about is Marlon Mack. At 5,800, Guys, in cash, we're looking for touches. We're looking for carries. He wasn't efficient at all in week 2, but he still had 20 rushing attempts. Week 1, 25 rushing attempts. So he had 25 touches here and 22 touches in week 2. The matchup gets a little bit easier against Atlanta. I think that Marlon Mack at home is a great play at 5,800. If I have to choose between Marlon Mack and Aaron Jones, it's going to be Aaron Jones, but I think that Marlon Mack is a great pivot, especially in cash, guys. It's great to have that 20 to 25 touch roll sealed up in your lineup. It's kind of a tough week if you want to get to Zeke or say Saquon or CMC. You're going to have to need some of those mid-tier guys because you can't really go stud running back, and then like cheap running back, because a lot of the other pricings you'll see for this week, it's going to be tough to get cheap receiver this week, and maybe even tight end. So we're going to have to find some different plays. This might be one of the only weeks that I don't go of total stars and scrubs lineup. I might have a balanced lineup, which I typically hate. I think it's one of the least EV lineups you can make, but I think this week the pricing and the matchups just do make sense for it, which is very unorthodox. You're going to have to be a little bit sharper, but I think you can make it work. Ingram, I'm not going to play him against KC. I think it just could be, an abandon the game type run. I'm not sure, but it's just where my head's at. Carry on. I just need to see more from that offense. Breida looked great. I need to see a little more touches. Josh Jacobs is just looking so good, but I just hate his usage. Hasn't been updated yet, but in week 2, he had 0 catches. He had 99 rushing yards, I think, on 10 carries or 11 carries. He either averaged 9 or 10 yards per carry. He had that big 51-yarder. Josh Jacobs looks like a beast. He needs to get more involved in the passing game if that team wants to be successful. Jalen Samuels. Okay, I guess we do got to look at James Conner because I know that he got injured. I don't know to what extent. Conner will have tests Monday to determine the severity of his knee injury. So we won't really know in this first look. So I'm not going to harp on James Conner and Jalen Samuels. Jalen Samuels might be a value at 5,300 depending on how those results come back. But still, it's kind of a murky situation overall in this Pittsburgh offense with the loss of Ben Roethlisberger. So I don't know how invested I want to be there. Damian Williams at 5,200 needs to get us a hard look. Yes, he's been super inefficient on the ground running the ball, but he's getting 5 or 6 targets a game, which translate to fantasy points, especially in a game where they can't just, they probably won't, at least they might, because it's still the Kansas City Chiefs, it's still Patrick Mahomes. They might steamroll the Ravens, but we think it's going to be a little bit tougher matchup for, Patrick Mahomes and company. So we think that the passing back will be more involved a little bit. So Damian Williams at 5,200 is something to look for. We'll start going through these a little bit quicker. 3 that I want to point out are Carlos Hyde at 4,500, 20 carries in week 2. That's awesome usage. He's handled 67% of the team's rushings from a running back so far this year. I don't see that changing. 4,500 is a good price. The matchup's pretty all right. The other 2 I want to talk about are Royce Freeman and running mate Philip Lindsay. 4,400 and 4,300 respectively against Green Bay. Lindsay has led the split at pretty much 45%, but it looks like it's going to be closer to an even split. Royce Freeman has been a little bit more effective, but Lindsay has that, game-breaking run potential. So kind of pick your poison there, 4,400 or 4,300, whatever suits your lineup, build better. I like both of those plays. Obviously, there are, Kalen Ballage. I hate Kalen Ballage, so I'm not going to get there. Miles Sanders is one more at 3,900. He looked like he got a little bit more run yesterday. It only ended up being 10 attempts, but when the game was still in reach, they were trying to establish the run. It sounds so cliche to say, but it looks like something they were trying to do. Might have a better chance against Detroit doing so, but not a great matchup either way. Yeah, and that's probably where I'm going to end up on running back. So let me just go through some of the easier, the onesie positions. Let's go through tight end real quick. I'm really only looking in 4 spots. I'm looking at Travis Kelce at 7,100. Had another monster game. 9 targets, 7 catches, 107 and a touchdown. That's what Travis Kelce does. The Ravens, are a stout defense, but in games where they're going to have to score, the Chiefs do seem to get Kelce a little bit more involved. Ertz was a target machine. Most likely will be without Alshon Jeffrey. The Eagles will in week 2. Could see another, not 16 target game, but that's something that we got to pay attention to. It's kind of what it looked like last season with Zach Ertz, just being peppered with targets at, 5,700. I think that's too, we had to really consider Zach Ertz at 5,700 for 16 targets. Where else were I looking? I was looking at Evan Ingram. Ooh, George Kittle went all the way down to 5,600. Pittsburgh just gave up how many touchdowns to Will Dissly last week, so it sucks to see 3 targets, but this could be a really good bounce-back game for George Kittle. Evan Ingram, he has a great matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Greg Olsen just put up 100 receiving yards on them. I understand what the limitations that Eli Manning bring are. It sucks that the defenses don't respect him as a threat in the deep passing game, and Evan Ingram is going to suffer from that. We have to respect the target share that Evan Ingram will command in this offense. The other places I'm looking are obviously Mark Andrews, who's just been a freaking monster. I have an article specifically on Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews on my site from back in August. I loved both of them coming into the year, but I did not see this usage coming at all. Just an absolute stud Mark Andrews looks like. I'm probably not going to get there this week. It might be another week where I just make the mistake and not have him when he's going to be beast, but I probably won't get there. But that being said, I actually might, because I was just thinking, right? I'm huge on Lamar Jackson this week. I don't think it's going to be a 120 rushing yard game. So I think he could have a 300 yard passing game. And if I'm not going to look for Hollywood Brown or Willie Snead, Mark Andrews kind of needs to be where I need to be, isn't it? So it depends. The Ravens could get used to this. Andrews got Baltimore on the board early in the first quarter. He did play against probably the worst team in the league against the tight end position, but it doesn't matter. Mark Andrews is going to be heavily involved in this offense. The other place I'm looking is, it sounds bad for you guys to hear, but it's OJ Howard. Guys, I still believe in the talent. It's only been 2 weeks. You saw what he did last year. Over 15 yards per catch. Bruce Arians will figure out how to use this man, even if he's trying to say that OJ Howard should be playing better. You guys need to give him a target. He had 1 target and he caught it, but he got called for pass interference last week. He's going to get involved. This matchup against the New York Giants is a good matchup to, bounce back, and I think he's going to be super low owned at 3,800. If I'm playing GPPs, it's probably my first look at tight end position. And my number 1 value play at tight end is old man Greg Olsen playing against that aforementioned Arizona Cardinal defense. 9 targets last week, 110 yards, and that team just got toasted by Mark Andrews. And they got toasted by TJ Hawkinson the week before. So it's not a team that covers the tight end very well. I think that this is a great play at 3,700, but I don't mind spending up this week at tight end. Defense, the one thing I made a huge mistake last week in really not ever considering the top end of the pricing for the tight end for defenses, because I never do it. But this week, I think the Cowboys are just. I think Dallas is so bad that you have to consider the Cowboys. I think the Patriots' defense is so good that you have to consider the Patriots. 10 points and 37. This is against the Steelers. This was obviously against an awful team, but the Jets, if Sam Darnold doesn't play, and depending on how Trevor Siemian looks tonight, Patriots at 3,800 have to be, in the back of your mind. One place I want to look, I'm not trying to get to them. Oh, they might not be on the slate. I was going to say, I want to see what the Jaguars end up with points, because I think that against Houston is actually a better matchup than people give them credit for. Deshaun Watson takes way too many sacks. That offensive line can't protect him. He holds the ball a little bit too long, and he's a stud. I love Deshaun Watson, one of the best young quarterbacks in the entire league. Probably one of the best quarterbacks. I don't even have to say young. But he does take sacks. This defense is good of the Chargers. Melvin Ingram will pressure the quarterback. At 2,500, I'm probably going to be sticking at the Chargers defense. So let me just plug them in and build a quick lineup for you guys for this first look. The other position, let's go over quarterbacks real quick. Like I said, we're going to be either at Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, if we're at the high-end range. The mid-tier range might be my favorite pick of the week at Dak Prescott, just crushing the game. I think at 6,500, he has a chance to put up 30 points. I think if I'm going Dak or Lamar Jackson, I'm going to go Dak in week 2, which is going to be a huge pivot because I know a lot of people are going to be on Lamar. The other places I'm looking at are... Let's just go over the last place I'm really looking, which is Kyler Murray at 5,800. The matchup is all right against Carolina. Not great, not awful. But this offense looks a lot better in week 2 against a much better Baltimore team on the road. And Kyler Murray looks to have chemistry with Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Keyshawn Johnson. They have a legit passing offense. I think Kyler Murray's touchdowns are going to come. I think his rushing production is going to come. And I think that this could be a game where you see closer to his ceiling, where you're seeing, no joke, I'd probably say closer to his floor in the first 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, I can have a little bit worse games, but this team's going to throw the ball a lot. He's going to run the ball more himself, and he's going to put up touchdowns. So Kyler Murray is definitely in play for me. let's just plug in Dak right now. Out of that tight end position, let's save some money. Let's go with Greg Olsen and wide receiver. Let's go over to wide receivers. At the top of the list, we have, the best wide receiver in the league. Got pretty held in check by Jalen Ramsey last week, but he's always in play. Another tough matchup in week 2, but it doesn't matter with him. Devontae Adams looked like Devontae Adams in a tough matchup. Damn, does he have a tough schedule to start the year. Now he goes up to Denver. He's going to face a lot of Chris Harris. Well, he gets Denver at home. He's going to face a lot of Chris Harris. It was nice to see 9 targets and, get that 100-yard game. He was pretty quiet in the second half. I think he had like 99 yards in the first half, but it's just kind of how the game flow went for the Packers. They were up pretty steadily. I mean, they were up a lot pretty early, and, he kind of scaled back. But Devontae Adams, in my opinion, is probably the best fantasy wide receiver in the league. So at 7,600, he has to be in play. Amari Cooper, if you're on Dak, you got to be on Amari. Probably not where I'm going to be. Michael Thomas, I'm not going to be near him with no Drew Brees. Julio, might be a Julio week at 7,300. He had kind of a weird day. Most of his points came on that 54-yard touchdown and that short touchdown. But, 30 points is 30 points. It's still Julio. My number one play. Okay, before we get to my number one play, let's talk about Antonio Brown and the Patriots. 8 targets. He's going to get more usage. He's going to be involved even more in week 2. This could be scary. This could be back to your wide receiver 1 in fantasy, depending on how the Patriots use them. The Patriots aren't a team that kind of peppers one guy, but Tom Brady knows what he has in Antonio Brown. He was trying to get him involved early. It might not be a game where you go back to him just yet, but at 7,100, it is something you have to be aware of. My number one play on the slate by far is Keenan Allen at 7K. I'm going to do whatever I can to get Keenan Allen in. 10 targets week 1, 15 targets week 2. The 5-target increase is almost completely in part due to Hunter Henry being out and Melvin Gordon not being there. Philip Rivers loves his tight end, he loves his running backs, and he loves Keenan Allen. And without his tight end, he's going to love Keenan Allen even more. So, no joke, I think that 12 to 13 target range is where Keenan Allen's going to be. Let's put him on the roster. This is what I mean by a balanced lineup, guys. There's not going to be a lot of studs that I can play because there's so many players at like that 6K range that I like. Speaking of that 6K range that I do like, let's talk about T.Y. Hilton's a good spot. But let's talk about Hollywood Brown and DJ Moore. Hollywood, 13 targets. How beautiful, guys. It's such a stud. He was my highest ranked receiver coming into this season. Him and N'Keal Harry graded out by far, like head and shoulders above the rest of the class for me at the wide receiver position. We didn't love the landing spot, but I guess he's shown that it doesn't really matter. Brown didn't have an encore quite as good as 2 touchdown beatdown, but the numbers still looked pretty good. 18 targets in 2 games compared to veteran Willie Snead's 4. A favorable matchup awaits in week 3 against the Chiefs. Yeah, it's going to be tough not to be on Marquise Brown at 5,900 because I just think that they're going to need to score. I think that they are going to score, and I don't think that anybody can stay with this kid on defense. So it's just tough because I love him, but I love DJ Moore at the same price at 5,900, where I'm saying it's going to be tough to be stars and scrub type lineup. I kind of want to just plug in a lot of these 6,000 price point guys. DJ Moore, 14 targets in week 2, has a cake matchup in Arizona without Patrick Peterson. Cam Newton looks awful, but he's gonna break one of these touchdowns. He's a yak monster, and I think he's one of the most talented players in the league. Let me just see what a balanced lineup looks real quick with those two. Like if I put in Marquise Brown and DJ Moore, some of the cheaper guys that I'm looking at the wide receiver position are Deebo Samuel at 4,500 and Cortland Sutton at 4,500. Yes, it's a tough matchup. These Green Bay corners are studs, but he had another big target game in week 2, especially when it came down to that fourth quarter when they were trying to come back against Chicago. Cortland Sutton's a very talented player. It's kind of another tough matchup. I like DK Metcalf at 4,700. Anything else jump off the page to me? Not especially now that I look at it. So that's what I'm saying. I don't really want to be a stars and scrubs type lineup. I kind of want to be at that, those 6K type running backs. Like I could get Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, and I could just have like one of those super balanced lineups, right? And I can get Mike Evans at 6,600. Like this is what I'm saying. I think Mike Evans at 6,600 is just a shame. I think that, yeah, he's going to draw Janoris Jenkins a lot. Janoris Jenkins is a great corner, but Mike Evans, he leads this team in air yards. He leads this team in targets. Oh, just kidding. I don't think he leads this team in targets anymore. But he leads the team in air yards. And I think that Mike Evans is going to show why he's the wide receiver 1 in Tampa Bay. No one loves Chris Godwin more than me, but Mike Evans is still a stud. I think Jameis Winston is a great play this week as well, which I didn't really talk about. I know that's the reason I wanted to stack them too, because Winston's only at 5,400 in a great matchup, but I'd rather spend the 1,100 in cash to get up to Dak. This lineup's pretty weird because I don't think I've ever had a wide receiver at flex for a cash lineup. But I think this week it works because it's weird. I don't have a single player over 7,000 my entire lineup. I spent 6,500 at quarterback that isn't named Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. I have Aaron Jones and Marlon Mack. I don't have Saquon. I don't have Zeke on his super chalk week, but I have a lot of upside. I have Keenan Allen. I have DJ Moore, Hollywood Brown, Mike Evans, Greg Olsen, and the Chargers defense with Dak Prescott. That's your first look with me. Please do me a favor and like this video. I really appreciate it. Subscribe if you aren't already. If you guys want, we do live streams on Thursday nights before kickoff, an hour before, and Sunday mornings before kickoff at 11 a.m. Eastern. So join those if you're down, and I appreciate you guys for watching this first look, and I'll see you in the next one.